The orbital station floated in the darkness of space like a giant metal wheel. It was home to thousands of beings from dozens of different worlds. Some came here to trade, some came here to work, and some, like Ho, came here because they had nowhere else to go. Ho was human. He was 32 years old with a thin body and gentle eyes. His hair was always a little messy, and he wore simple clothes that never quite fit him right. He worked as a translator in the station's communication center, helping different species understand each other. It was quiet work, safe work, the kind of work that nobody noticed. And that was exactly how Ho wanted it. Every morning, he woke up in his small room on the lower levels of the station. The room was barely big enough for a bed and a small desk. The walls were gray metal, and there was only one tiny window that looked out into the stars. But Ho never complained. He made his bed neatly, washed his face with cold water, and walked to work through the crowded hallways. The station was always busy. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the corridors. Some were tall and thin, with blue skin and long fingers. Some were short and round, covered in thick fur. Some had scales, some had feathers, and some had bodies that Ho could not even describe. But he smiled at all of them. He nodded politely and stepped aside to let them pass. Most of them ignored him completely. Humans were not respected on station. They were one of the youngest species in the galaxy, and many aliens thought they were weak and primitive. Humans did not have sharp claws or thick skin. They could not breathe underwater or survive in extreme temperatures. They were soft, fragile, easy to break. At least that was what everyone believed. Ho arrived at the communication center and sat down at his desk. The room was filled with screens and machines that blinked with colored lights. Other translators sat at their own desks, speaking into microphones and typing on keyboards. Most of them were aliens. There were only 3 humans on the entire translation team, and Ho was the quietest of them all. He put on his headset and began his work. A merchant from the system wanted to sell mining equipment to a buyer from the outer colonies. They spoke different languages and had different customs. Ho listened to both sides and helped them understand each other. He was patient and careful with his words. By the end of the conversation, both parties were happy. But nobody thanked Ho. The merchant did not even look at him. The buyer walked away without saying goodbye. Ho was invisible to them, just another human doing a simple job. He did not mind. He preferred it that way. The hours passed slowly. Ho translated conversations about trade deals and shipping routes. He helped settle small arguments between travelers who did not understand each other. He answered questions from confused tourists who had gotten lost on the station. It was boring work, but Ho did it well. Then Commander walked into the room. Everyone stopped what they were doing. The other translators straightened their backs and lowered their eyes. Even the machines seemed to grow quieter. Commander was the head of security on station, and she was feared by almost everyone. Her species was known throughout the galaxy for their strength and their pride. They stood over 2 meters tall, with skin the color of dark stone and eyes that glowed like burning coals. Their bodies were built for war. Thick muscles, sharp teeth, and bones as hard as metal. They had conquered dozens of worlds before they finally agreed to join the Galactic Council. Even now, centuries later, other species still feared them. Was taller than most. Her shoulders were broad, and her arms were covered with old battle scars. She wore a black uniform with silver badges that showed her rank. When she walked, the floor seemed to shake under her heavy boots. She looked around the room with her glowing eyes. Her gaze passed over the alien translators without interest. Then she saw Ho. Her lip curled in disgust. She walked toward him. Each step was slow and deliberate. The other workers quickly moved out of her way. Ho stayed in his seat. He took off his headset and looked up at her calmly. Stopped in front of his desk. She was so tall that Ho had to bend his neck back just to see her face. She stared down at him like he was an insect. You are the human translator, she said. Her voice was deep and rough. Ho. Yes, Commander, Ho replied. His voice was soft and steady. I have a task for you, dropped a data pad on his desk. It landed with a loud clang. A group of traders arrived this morning. They are causing problems in the market district, complaints about their behavior. I need someone to go and translate for them. Ho looked at the data pad. They were a rough species. They were large and aggressive, with thick hides and bad tempers. They often got into fights and arguments wherever they went. Most translators refused to work with them. I understand, Ho said. I will go. Laughed, it was not a kind laugh. You will go just like that, no complaints, no excuses. No, Commander. She leaned closer. Her hot breath washed over Ho's face. Do you know why I chose you for this task, human? Ho said nothing. Because you are expendable, said. If they hurt you, it does not matter. You are easy to replace. There are millions of humans looking for work. One less will not make any difference. The other translators looked away. Some of them shifted uncomfortably in their seats, but nobody spoke up. Nobody defended Ho. He simply nodded. I understand, Commander, I will go now. Straightened up. She seemed disappointed that he did not react. She wanted him to be afraid. She wanted him to beg or cry or argue, but Ho gave her nothing. His face was calm. His eyes were empty. Weak, muttered. All humans are weak. She turned and walked away. Her heavy boots echoed through the room. When she was gone, the other translators slowly returned to their work. None of them looked at Ho. None of them offered to help him. Ho picked up the data pad and read the information. The traders were staying in a warehouse near the market district. There had been several complaints about them harassing other merchants. The station security had been called twice, but nothing had been done. He put the data pad in his pocket and left the communication center. The walk to the market district took about 20 minutes. Ho moved through the crowded hallways without hurrying. He passed shops and restaurants and entertainment centers. Aliens of all kinds surrounded him, talking and laughing and arguing. The air smelled like 100 different foods from 100 different worlds. Ho kept his head down and his hands in his pockets. He did not look at anyone. He did not speak to anyone. He was just another face in the crowd, another forgettable human. When he reached the market district, he saw the warehouse right away. It was a large building made of dark metal, with heavy doors and no windows. Several guards stood outside. They were big and ugly, with gray skin and small eyes. They carried weapons openly, which was against station rules. Ho walked up to them calmly. I am the translator, he said. Commander sent me. The guards looked at each other. One of them laughed. A human, he said. They sent a human. Yes, Ho replied. The guard grabbed Ho by the shoulder and pulled him close. His grip was strong enough to leave bruises. You better not waste our time, little human. Our boss does not like to be kept waiting. Ho did not flinch. I will do my best. The guard pushed him toward the door. Ho stumbled but caught himself. He straightened his clothes and walked inside. The warehouse was dark and dirty. Boxes and crates were stacked everywhere, filled with goods of questionable origin. The smell of sweat and smoke filled the air. In the center of the room, a group of traders sat around a large table, drinking and gambling. Their leader was a massive creature named. He was even bigger than the guards outside, with scars covering his face and arms. His teeth were yellow and sharp, and his eyes were cruel. When he saw Ho, he laughed. What is this? Said. A human, they sent me a human. I am here to translate, Ho said quietly. There have been complaints about your group. The station authority wants to resolve the issues peacefully. Stood up, he walked over to Ho and looked down at him. Peacefully, you think I care about peace? I am only here to help with communication, Ho said. Nothing more. Grabbed Ho's chin and forced his head up. You humans are so small, so weak. I could break you with one hand. Ho's eyes remained calm. Perhaps, but that would cause more problems for you. Stared at him for a long moment. Then he released him and laughed again. I like this one. He has no fear, or maybe he is just too stupid to be afraid. He returned to his table and sat down. Fine, translator, do your job. Tell the station authority that we will behave. For now. Ho nodded. Thank you. I will pass along your message. He turned and walked out of the warehouse. The guards watched him go but did not stop him. When he was outside, he took a deep breath of cleaner air. His shoulder ached where the guard had grabbed him. There would be bruises tomorrow, but Ho did not care. Pain was something he understood. Pain was something he had learned to live with long ago. He walked back to the communications center and filed his report. He told Commander that the had agreed to behave. She did not thank him. She did not even look at him. She just waved her hand and told him to return to his regular work. Ho sat down at his desk and put on his headset. The day continued as if nothing had happened. He translated conversations. He answered questions. He helped strangers understand each other. And nobody noticed the quiet human with the gentle eyes. Nobody saw the scars hidden under his sleeves. Nobody knew what he had been before he came to this station. And Ho hoped it would stay that way forever. But some secrets cannot stay buried. Some pasts cannot be forgotten. And some quiet men are only quiet until someone gives them a reason not to be. That reason was coming soon. Her name was Hana, and she was about to change everything. Hana was 28 years old and worked as a medic in the station's clinic. She had bright eyes and a warm smile that made everyone feel better, even before she treated their wounds. Her hair was long and dark, and she usually kept it tied back in a simple ponytail. She wore the white uniform of the medical staff, which was always clean and neat. She was one of the few humans on the station who was actually respected, not because humans were suddenly valued, but because Hana was simply too kind to hate. She treated every patient the same, whether they were a powerful merchant or a poor worker. She never complained about long hours. She never refused to help anyone. Even the aliens who looked down on humans had to admit that Hana was different. Ho had known her for 3 years. They had met shortly after he arrived on station when he had come to the clinic with a minor injury. Hana had treated him gently and asked him questions about his life. Most people ignored Ho, but Hana actually listened to him. She remembered his name. She remembered his stories. They became friends. It was a strange friendship. Ho was quiet and distant. Hana was warm and open. He preferred to be alone, while she loved being around people. But somehow they understood each other. They ate meals together in the station's cafeteria. They walked through the gardens on the upper levels. They talked about small things like the food they missed from Earth or the strange customs of different alien species. Hana never asked about Ho's past. She could see the shadows in his eyes. She could see the way he sometimes stared at nothing, lost in memories he did not want to share. But she never pushed him. She simply accepted him as he was. And Ho was grateful for that. One evening, after a long day of work, Ho went to the cafeteria for dinner. The room was crowded with workers and travelers, all eating and talking loudly. The smell of different foods filled the air. Ho got his meal and looked around for a place to sit. He saw Hana at a table in the corner. She was alone, which was unusual. Normally, she was surrounded by friends and who wanted to be near her. But tonight, she sat by herself, staring at her food without eating. Ho walked over and sat down across from her. Is something wrong? Hana looked up. She tried to smile, but it did not reach her eyes. Oh, Ho, I did not see you come in. You seem troubled, he said quietly. She sighed and put down her fork. It is nothing, just some trouble at the clinic today. What kind of trouble? Hana hesitated. She looked around to make sure nobody was listening. Then she leaned closer and spoke in a low voice. Some traders came to the clinic this afternoon. One of them had a small cut on his arm, nothing serious. I treated him quickly. And Ho asked. And they would not leave. Hana's voice trembled slightly. They stayed for over an hour. They kept making comments about me, about humans, about how weak we are, how easy we would be to break. Ho's jaw tightened. Did they touch you? No, but they made me feel unsafe. The way they looked at me. She shook her head. I reported it to Commander, but she did nothing. She said I was overreacting. She said they were just being friendly in their own way. Ho said nothing, but his hands, resting on the table, slowly curled into fists. I know I should not complain, Hana continued. There are worse things happening on this station, but I feel like they were testing me, seeing how far they could push before I pushed back, and I did not push back at all. I just smiled and waited for them to leave. That was the smart thing to do, Ho said. They are dangerous. Fighting them would only make things worse. I know, but it still feels wrong. It feels like I am letting them win. Ho reached across the table and gently touched her hand. You are not letting them win. You are surviving. There is a difference. Hana looked at him with surprise. Ho rarely touched anyone. He always kept his distance both physically and emotionally. But in that moment, his hand on hers felt warm and reassuring. Thank you, she whispered. They finished their dinner in comfortable silence. When it was time to leave, Ho walked Hana back to her quarters. The hallways were quieter now, as most workers had gone to bed. Their footsteps echoed on the metal floor. You should be careful, Ho said as they walked. They are not here just for trade, they are looking for trouble. How do you know? I met them yesterday. Commander sent me to translate for them. He paused. Their leader is named. He is cruel and arrogant. He sees other species as toys to play with. Hana shivered. That sounds terrifying. It is, but as long as you stay away from them, you should be safe. They will leave the station eventually. Just avoid the market district until they are gone. I will try. She stopped in front of her door and turned to face him. Ho, can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you not afraid of them? When you talk about you sound so calm, like they are not a threat at all. Ho was silent for a long moment. His eyes grew distant, looking at something far away. I have met worse things than he finally said. Much worse. Before Hana could ask what he meant, he turned and walked away. Good night, Hana, lock your door. She watched him disappear around the corner. Then she went inside and did exactly as he said. The next few days passed without incident. Ho continued his work at the communications center. Hana continued treating patients at the clinic. They met for meals and walks as usual, and neither of them mentioned But Ho was watching. He noticed that they were spending more time in the public areas of the station. They walked through the markets and the corridors, laughing loudly and pushing other beings out of their way. They carried their weapons openly, even though it was against the rules. Nobody stopped them. Nobody complained. Commander was supposed to keep order on the station, but she did nothing about She let them do whatever they wanted, as long as they did not cause too much trouble. Some people whispered that she was afraid of them. Others said she had made some kind of deal with them. Ho did not care about the reasons. He only cared about the danger. He started keeping track of where they went and what they did. He learned their patrol routes and their schedules. He memorized their faces and their names. He watched them from the shadows, quiet and invisible like a ghost. And he noticed something disturbing. They were interested in Hana. He saw them hanging around the clinic, pretending to need medical treatment. He saw them watching her from across the cafeteria. He saw them following her through the hallways, always staying a few steps behind. They were hunting her, slowly and patiently, like predators circling their prey. Ho wanted to warn her, but he did not want to frighten her. He decided to handle it himself. He started walking Hana to and from work every day. He stayed close to her whenever she was in public. He made sure she was never alone. They noticed. They saw the quiet human who was always near the pretty medic, and they did not like it. One afternoon, as Ho was walking Hana back from the clinic, a group of blocked their path. There were 3 of them, all big and ugly, with cruel smiles on their faces. "Look at this," one of them said. "The little human has a bodyguard." "Please step aside," Ho said quietly. "We do not want any trouble." They laughed. "You do not want trouble? Then why do you follow the female everywhere? Are you trying to protect her?" "I am just walking with my friend." They moved closer. "Your friend? She is too pretty for a weak thing like you. Maybe she would prefer a real male, someone strong, someone who could give her what she really wants." Hana grabbed Ho's arm. Her face was pale with fear. "Ho, let us just go another way." "That is a good idea," they said. "Run away, little humans. Run away before we decide to play with you." Ho did not move. His eyes were fixed on the in front of him. His face was calm, but something cold had appeared in his gaze, something dangerous. They noticed. For just a moment, his smile flickered. He felt something strange coming from the small human, something that did not match his weak appearance. But then the moment passed. They laughed again and stepped aside. "Go on, then. We will let you go this time, but we will see you again soon, pretty female, very soon." Ho took Hana's hand and walked past them. He did not look back, but his body was tense, ready to move at any moment. When they were far away, Hana finally spoke. "Ho, I am scared. They are not going to leave me alone, are they?" "No," he admitted, "they are not." "What should I do? I cannot hide forever. I have to work. I have to live my life." Ho stopped and turned to face her. "I will handle it." "How? You are just one person. And they could kill you without even trying." He looked into her eyes. "Do you trust me?" Hana hesitated, then she nodded slowly. "Yes, I do not know why, but I do." "Then trust me now. I will not let them hurt you, I promise." He walked her to her quarters and waited until she was safely inside. Then he turned and walked back toward the market district. His steps were slow and steady. His face showed no emotion. But inside his mind, something was changing. For 3 years, Ho had tried to be invisible. He had tried to bury his past and live a quiet life. He had told himself that the person he used to be was gone forever. But that person was not gone. That person was just sleeping. And now, for the first time in years, that person was starting to wake up. Ho did not want violence. He did not want to hurt anyone. But if they threatened Hana again, he would do whatever was necessary to stop them. He had made a promise, and he never broke his promises. The days ahead would test that promise in ways he could not imagine. They were getting bolder. Commander was getting more hostile, and somewhere in the shadows was making plans of his own. A storm was coming to station. And when it arrived, everyone would learn the truth about the quiet human with the gentle eyes. They would learn what happens when a sleeping dragon finally opens its eyes. They would learn to fear the fury of a man who has nothing left to lose. But for now, Ho walked alone through the empty hallways. His footsteps echoed in the darkness. His hands hung loose at his sides, but they remembered old skills. Skills he had promised himself he would never use again. He hoped that promise could be kept. But deep in his heart, he knew it could not. A week passed on station. The tension grew thicker every day, like storm clouds gathering before a thunderstorm. The traders became more aggressive. They pushed people in the hallways. They took things from shops without paying. They threatened anyone who looked at them the wrong way. And still, Commander did nothing. Some workers began to whisper that she had been bribed. Others said they had something on her, some secret that she did not want revealed. A few brave souls tried to complain to the Galactic Council, but their messages were blocked. The station's communication systems were not working properly, and nobody could figure out why. Ho knew why. They were planning something. They were cutting off the station from the outside galaxy, one system at a time. They were preparing for something big, and Ho was the only one who seemed to notice. He tried to warn Commander. He went to her office and requested a meeting. She made him wait for 4 hours before finally agreeing to see him. "What do you want, human?" she asked coldly. Ho stood in front of her desk, his hands clasped behind his back. "Commander, I believe the traders are planning something dangerous. They have been interfering with the communication systems. They have been stockpiling weapons. They have been mapping the station's layout." Stared at him with her glowing eyes. "And how would you know this?" "I have been watching them." "Watching them?" she laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the room. "A translator has been spying on dangerous criminals. Do you think you are some kind of hero?" "I am not a hero. I am just concerned for the safety of this station." "The safety of this station is my responsibility, not yours." Stood up and walked around her desk. She towered over Ho, her massive body blocking out the light. "You are nothing, human. You translate conversations. You carry messages. You do the jobs that nobody else wants. That is your place. That is all you will ever be." "Commander, please listen to me." "Enough." She grabbed him by the collar and lifted him off the ground. Ho's feet dangled in the air as she brought his face close to hers. "I do not take orders from humans. I do not take advice from humans. If you bother me again with your paranoid fantasies, I will throw you out of an airlock. Do you understand?" Ho's face remained calm. He did not struggle or fight back. "I understand." She threw him to the floor. He landed hard on his shoulder, pain shooting through his body. But he did not cry out. He simply got to his feet, straightened his clothes, and walked out of the office. Watched him go with narrowed eyes. There was something strange about that human, something that did not fit. Most beings would have been terrified after being threatened like that. They would have apologized, begged for mercy, or run away in fear. But Ho had shown no fear at all. For a moment felt a flicker of unease, but she pushed it aside. He was just a human. There was nothing special about him. She had more important things to worry about. She returned to her desk and went back to work. Ho walked through the station with his shoulder aching. He would have bruises again, but physical pain did not bother him anymore. He had experienced far worse things than being thrown to the floor. What bothered him was that nobody would listen. He could see the danger coming. He could feel it in the air like the pressure before an explosion. They were getting ready to make their move, and when they did, innocent people would get hurt. People like Hana. He had to do something, but what? He was just one person. He had no weapons, no authority, no allies. Commander hated him. The other workers avoided him. The Galactic Council could not be reached. He was alone. That night Ho went to the cafeteria to meet Hana for dinner, but when he arrived, she was not there. Her usual table was empty. Her said she had left the clinic early, saying she did not feel well. Ho felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He went to Hana's quarters and knocked on the door. There was no answer. He knocked again, harder this time, still nothing. He tried to open the door, but it was locked from the outside. Someone had sealed it shut. Ho's heart began to beat faster. He looked around the hallway and saw signs of a struggle. A small piece of torn fabric on the floor, scratch marks on the wall, a few drops of something dark. Blood. Hana had been taken. Ho closed his eyes and forced himself to stay calm. Panic would not help her. He needed to think clearly. He needed to find her before it was too late. He examined the scene carefully. The attackers had come from the direction of the cargo bays. They had surprised Hana when she returned to her quarters. There had been a brief fight, but Hana was not a fighter. They had overpowered her quickly and dragged her away. It had to be them. Ho started walking toward the cargo bays. Then he started running. His footsteps pounded against the metal floor. His breath came in short gasps, but his mind was cold and focused, analyzing every detail, planning every move. He knew where they would take her, the warehouse in the market district. It was isolated and heavily guarded, the perfect place to do terrible things without being disturbed. He had to get there before they hurt her. The cargo bays were dark and empty at this hour. Most workers had gone home for the night. The only lights came from emergency lamps that cast long shadows across the floor. Crates and containers were stacked everywhere, creating a maze of narrow passages and dead ends. Ho moved through the shadows like a ghost. His years of training came back to him automatically. How to walk without making sound, how to breathe without being heard, how to see in the darkness. He was almost at the warehouse when he heard voices ahead. Voices. And then a sound that made his blood run cold. Hana screaming. Ho moved faster. He slipped between the crates, getting closer to the source of the sound. Finally, he reached a spot where he could see what was happening. The scene in front of him was worse than he had imagined. Hana was tied to a metal post in the middle of the warehouse. Her face was bruised and her lip was bleeding. Her clothes were torn. Tears ran down her cheeks as she struggled against the ropes that held her. Around her stood 5 traders. They were laughing and drinking, enjoying her fear. And in front of them, sitting on a makeshift throne of cargo crates, was. The leader was even more terrifying in this setting. His cruel eyes gleamed in the dim light. His lips were pulled back in a savage grin. He held a long knife in one hand, turning it slowly so that Hana could see the blade. "Such a pretty thing," said. "It is a shame that we have to hurt you, but your little friend has been causing trouble for us, following us around, watching us, interfering with our plans." "I do not know what you're talking about," Hana sobbed. "Please let me go. I have done nothing wrong." "You are friends with the translator," continued. "Ho, the quiet one. He thinks he is clever, but we have been watching him too. We know he has been spying on us. We know he tried to warn the commander about our operations." He stood up and walked closer to Hana. "The commander is useless. She will not help him. Nobody will. But we still need to send a message. We need to show everyone on this station what happens to those who interfere with us." He pressed the knife against Hana's cheek. She whimpered in fear. "When we are done with you," whispered, "we will leave your body where everyone can see it, and then we will find your friend and do the same to him." "Please," Hana begged, "please do not do this." "Begging will not help you. Nothing will help you now." Ho watched from the shadows. His body was perfectly still, but inside something was changing. For 3 years he had kept that part of himself locked away, the part that knew how to hurt people, the part that knew how to kill. He had promised himself that he would never become that person again. He had promised himself that he would live a peaceful life, no matter what happened. But now, watching Hana cry, watching press a knife to her face, those promises seemed meaningless. She was innocent. She had never hurt anyone. She was kind and gentle and good. And they were going to kill her. Because of him. Something broke inside Ho's mind. The walls he had built around his past crumbled and fell. The memories he had buried came rushing back. The training, the missions, the blood on his hands. He had tried so hard to be a different person. But in the end, he was still the same. He was still a killer. And tonight he would kill again. Ho stepped out of the shadows. His footsteps echoed through the warehouse. The turned to look at him, surprised by the interruption. Laughed when he saw who it was. "Well, well, the translator himself. You saved us the trouble of hunting you down." Ho said nothing. He just kept walking forward. His eyes were fixed on. His face was completely empty, like a mask carved from stone. "Stop right there," ordered, but Ho did not stop. "I said stop." 2 guards moved to block his path. They were both bigger than Ho, both stronger, both armed. It did not matter. Ho did not stop. Smile faded. He felt it again, that strange sensation from before. Looking at this human was like looking at a predator wearing the skin of prey. There was something wrong with his eyes, something cold and empty and utterly without mercy. "Kill him," ordered. The guards rushed forward. Hana screamed Ho's name. And then everything changed. The first guard swung his weapon at Ho's head, but Ho was no longer there. He had moved, faster than the eye could follow, sliding under the attack like water flowing around a stone. His hand shot out and struck the guard's throat with surgical precision. The guard collapsed, choking, unable to breathe. The second guard tried to grab Ho from behind, but Ho spun around, caught the guard's arm, and twisted it in a direction it was not meant to go. The sound of breaking bone echoed through the warehouse. The guard screamed and fell to his knees. Ho did not pause. He did not hesitate. He moved like a machine, efficient and deadly. Each strike was calculated for maximum damage. Each movement flowed into the next like a deadly dance. The remaining stared in shock. This was not possible. This small, weak human was destroying their guards like they were nothing. His face twisted with rage. "What are you standing there for? Kill him now." The other charged at Ho, 3 against 1. They thought their numbers would save them. They thought their size and strength would be enough. They were wrong. Ho was not fighting like a normal person anymore. He was fighting like something else entirely, something that had been forged in blood and darkness, something that knew 100 ways to cause pain and death. Hana watched through her tears as the quiet, gentle man she knew transformed into something terrifying. His movements were beautiful and horrible at the same time, like watching a storm destroy everything in its path. In less than a minute, all 5 guards were on the ground. Some were unconscious. Some were groaning in pain. None of them would be getting up anytime soon. Ho stood in the middle of the carnage, barely breathing hard. His clothes were torn and there was blood on his hands, but none of it was his. He looked up his empty eyes fixed on the leader. "Let her go," he said quietly. Stared at him with a mixture of fear and hatred. He still held the knife in his hand. He still had Hana as a hostage. But for the first time, he was not sure if that would be enough. The quiet human had become something else entirely, and was beginning to realize that he had made a terrible mistake. The warehouse was silent except for the groans of the fallen. Ho stood among them like a statue, his eyes locked on. The leader still held his knife, still had Hana tied to the post, but his confidence had shattered like glass. "What are you?" demanded. His voice cracked slightly, betraying his fear. "What kind of human are you?" Ho did not answer. He took another step forward, grabbed Hana by the hair and pulled her head back, pressing the knife to her throat. "Stop! One more step and I cut her open." Ho stopped, but his eyes did not change. They remained cold and empty, like windows into a dark room. "You think I am afraid of you?" shouted. "I have killed hundreds of beings. I have burned planets. You are nothing compared to me." "Then why is your hand shaking?" Ho asked quietly. Looked down at his knife hand. It was trembling. He cursed and tightened his grip, trying to steady himself. But the fear had already taken hold. He could not stop it. "What do you want?" he demanded. "Tell me what you want and maybe I will let you both live." "I want you to let her go," Ho said. "That is all I want. Let her go and walk away. Leave this station and never come back. And if I refuse, then I will kill you." The words hung in the air, simple and absolute. There was no anger in Ho's voice, no emotion at all. He was simply stating a fact, like saying that water is wet or that space is dark. Felt a chill run down his spine. He had faced many enemies in his life. Warriors, soldiers, assassins, but none of them had ever looked at him the way this human was looking at him now, like he was already dead and just did not know it yet. "You are bluffing," said, but his voice sounded weak, even to his own ears. "I never bluff." Silence. Hana looked at Ho with wide eyes. She had known him for 3 years. She had shared meals with him, walked with him, laughed with him. She had thought she knew who he was. But the man standing in front of her now was a stranger with the same face and the same voice, but completely different inside. This man was not gentle or kind or peaceful. This man was something else entirely. This man was terrifying. "Ho," she whispered, "what is happening? Who are you?" He looked at her for just a moment, and in that moment she saw something flicker in his empty eyes, a spark of warmth, a hint of the man she knew. "I am sorry," he said. "I did not want you to see this." Then the warmth disappeared, and the coldness returned. Saw his chance. While Ho was looking at Hana, the leader lunged forward with his knife. He was fast for his size, moving with the speed of a trained killer. The blade aimed for Ho's throat. But Ho was faster. He twisted his body, letting the knife pass by his shoulder. At the same time, his hand shot out and grabbed his wrist. He squeezed. The bones broke with a sickening crack. Screamed and dropped the knife. He tried to pull away, but Ho held him in place with an iron grip. Then with his other hand, Ho delivered a series of strikes that were too fast to follow. Throat, stomach, knee. Each hit was perfectly placed, designed to cause maximum pain without killing. Collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. He tried to get up, but his body would not obey him. Ho had damaged something important, something that could not be fixed easily. "I warned you," Ho said, standing over him. "I gave you a chance to walk away, but you did not listen." He knelt down beside and looked into his eyes. "Now you will pay for what you did to her." What happened next was brutal. Ho did not kill, but he hurt him. He hurt him in ways that would leave scars, both physical and mental. He broke bones that would never heal properly. He damaged nerves that would cause constant pain for the rest of his life. He showed the leader exactly what it felt like to be helpless and afraid. Hana turned away, unable to watch. The sounds were enough to make her sick. The screams, the cracks, the wet thuds of flesh hitting flesh. She closed her eyes and prayed for it to stop. Finally it did. Ho stood up and walked away from his broken body. The leader was still alive, but barely. He lay on the floor, whimpering like a wounded animal, his once proud body twisted into a pathetic shape. Ho went to Hana and untied the ropes that held her. His hands were covered in blood, but his touch was gentle. He helped her to her feet and wrapped his arms around her. "It is over," he said softly. "You are safe now." Hana buried her face in his chest and sobbed. She was shaking so hard that she could barely stand. Ho held her up, supporting her weight, keeping her from falling. "I am sorry," he whispered again. "I am so sorry." They stayed like that for a long moment. Then, slowly, Hana pulled back and looked up at him. Her eyes were red and swollen, but there was something else there too, something like understanding. "You were a soldier," she said. "Were you not?" "Something like that." "How long?" 10 years. "And then you came here, to get away from it." "Yes." Hana reached up and touched his face. Her fingers traced the lines of his jaw, his cheek, his forehead. "All this time you have been carrying this inside you, all this pain, all this darkness, and you never told anyone." "I did not want anyone to know. I wanted to be someone different, someone better." "You are better," Hana said firmly. "You saved my life. You protected me when nobody else would. That makes you a good person, Ho, no matter what you did before." He looked at her with surprise. He had expected fear, disgust, rejection. He had expected her to run away from him and never look back. But instead she was standing here, touching his face, telling him he was good. "You are not afraid of me?" he asked. "Should I be?" He thought about it. Maybe. "I am not." She took his bloody hand in hers. "I know who you are, Ho. I have known for 3 years. You are kind and gentle and caring. You help people without expecting anything in return. You would never hurt anyone who did not deserve it. But what I just did..." You did what you had to do. Would have killed me, he would have killed others too. You stopped him, that is not evil, that is justice. Ho did not know what to say. He had spent so many years hating himself for what he was, for what he could do. He had never imagined that someone could see it differently. But Hana did. And somehow, that made everything feel a little lighter. Their moment was interrupted by the sound of footsteps. Lots of footsteps coming from outside the warehouse. Ho tensed, ready for another fight. But then the doors burst open and a squad of station security officers rushed in. At their head was Commander. The commander stopped when she saw the scene in front of her. 5 guards lying on the ground, unconscious or groaning in pain. The fearsome leader, reduced to a whimpering wreck on the floor. And in the middle of it all, the quiet human translator, covered in blood, holding the human medic in his arms. His mouth fell open. What happened here?" she demanded. "The kidnapped Hana," Ho said calmly. "They were going to kill her, I stopped them." "You stopped them," looked at the fallen, then back at Ho. "You did this alone." "Yes." The security officers were staring at him with a mixture of fear and awe. They had seen thee in action. They knew how dangerous they were. And yet, a single human had defeated 6 of them without weapons or armor. It was impossible. And yet, the evidence was right in front of them. Commander walked slowly through the warehouse, examining the fallen. She checked their injuries, her expression growing more shocked with each body she examined. These were not random wounds. They were precise, calculated, delivered with expert knowledge of anatomy. This human was not just a fighter. He was something much more dangerous. She stopped in front of Ho and looked down at him. For the first time, she did not see a weak, pitiful creature. She saw a predator, dressed in the skin of prey. She saw someone who had been hiding his true nature all along. "Who are you?" she asked. "Who are you really?" Ho met her gaze without flinching. "I am just a translator, Commander, nothing more." "Do not lie to me. I know a killer when I see one. I have commanded armies. I have seen the best warriors in the galaxy. And you are something different, something I have never seen before." Ho said nothing. Leaned closer. "Tell me the truth, human. Where did you learn to fight like this? Who trained you?" "I would rather not say." "That was not a request." "Then you can throw me in a cell, but I will not answer your questions." Their eyes locked. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The tension in the warehouse was thick enough to cut with a knife. Then unexpectedly stepped back. "Take them to the detention center," she ordered her officers. "Get them medical attention, and find out what they were planning. I want a full report by morning." The officers rushed to obey. They dragged thee away one by one, leaving Ho and Hana alone with the commander. Looked at Ho with new eyes. "I underestimated you, human. I thought you were weak. I thought you were nothing." "Most people do," Ho replied. "I will not make that mistake again." She paused. "You are free to go for now, but I will be watching you closely." "I understand." Turned and walked out of the warehouse. Her heavy footsteps faded into the distance. Ho let out a long breath. His body ached. His hands were sore. The adrenaline was fatting, leaving him feeling tired and empty. But it was over. Hana was safe. They were defeated. And somehow, despite everything, he was still alive. "Come on," Hana said softly. "Let us get out of here." She took his hand and led him out of the warehouse. The station corridors were quiet and empty. It was late at night and most beings were asleep. They walked together in silence, 2 humans in a galaxy full of aliens. When they reached Hana's quarters, she stopped and turned to face him. "Stay with me tonight," she said. "Please, I do not want to be alone." Ho hesitated. "Are you sure after what you saw?" "I am sure." She squeezed his hand. "I trust you, Ho. I have always trusted you. That has not changed." He looked into her eyes and saw nothing but warmth and acceptance. She was not afraid of him. She was not disgusted by him. She still saw him as the gentle, kind man he had tried so hard to become. Maybe he could become that man after all. "Okay," he said, "I will stay." They went inside and closed the door behind them. Outside, the station continued its endless orbit through the stars. The news of what had happened in the warehouse would spread quickly. By morning, everyone would know about the quiet human who had defeated 6 warriors with his bare hands. Some would be afraid of him. Some would respect him. Some would want to know his secrets. But Ho did not care about any of that. He had saved the person who mattered most to him. And for now, that was enough. The news spread across station like fire through dry grass. By morning, everyone knew what had happened in the warehouse. The quiet human translator had defeated 6 warriors alone, including their feared leader. Some said he had used weapons. Others said he had used special technology. But those who had seen the evidence knew the truth. He had used nothing but his bare hands. The station buzzed with gossip and speculation. In the cafeteria, workers whispered to each other about the mysterious human. In the market district, merchants discussed what they had heard from the security officers. In the hallways, aliens who had once ignored Ho now looked at him with a mixture of fear and curiosity. He was no longer invisible. Ho tried to go about his normal routine. He went to the communications center and sat at his desk. He put on his headset and tried to translate conversations, but nothing was normal anymore. He stared at him. His supervisors spoke to him carefully as if he might attack them at any moment. Even the aliens who came to the translation center treated him differently. Before, they had ignored him or looked down on him. Now, they watched him nervously, keeping their distance, never turning their backs to him. It was exactly what he had feared. Hana found him during lunch break, sitting alone in a corner of the cafeteria. She sat down across from him and smiled. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I am fine," he said, but his voice was tired. "Liar," she reached across the table and took his hand. "I know this is hard for you. You spent years building a quiet life here, and now everyone knows your secret." "Not everyone. They know I can fight, they do not know why." "Does it matter? They are afraid of you now. Is that not the opposite of what you wanted?" Ho looked down at his food. "Yes, but I would do it again. I would do it 100 times if it meant keeping you safe." Hana's eyes softened. "I know, and I am grateful, but I also worry about you. You cannot live like this forever, hiding from your past. Eventually, you have to face it." "I am not ready." "I know," she squeezed his hand, "but when you are, I will be here." They finished their lunch in comfortable silence. Then Hana returned to the clinic, and Ho returned to his desk. The afternoon passed slowly, filled with awkward silences and careful glances. When his shift ended, Ho left the communications center and walked toward his quarters. But before he got there, a security officer stopped him in the hallway. "Commander wants to see you," the officer said, "immediately." Ho nodded. He had expected this. He followed the officer through the station to the commander's office. Was waiting for him behind her desk. She looked different than before. Her posture was still proud and strong, but her eyes held something new. It might have been respect. It might have been caution. "Sit down," she said, gesturing to a chair. Ho sat. Studied him for a long moment. Then she picked up a data pad from her desk and slid it across to him. "I did some research," she said, "about you." Ho looked at the data pad. On the screen was a file heavily classified with most of the text blocked out, but some words were visible. Words like special operations and black site and terminated with prejudice. His own file, his own history. "It took a lot of effort to find this," continued. "Your records were buried deep. Someone did not want them to be found, but I have contacts in places that most beings do not know exist." "What did you learn?" Ho asked quietly. "Not much. Most of it is classified beyond my clearance, but I learned enough." She leaned forward. You were part of a special unit. A unit that did things that no normal soldier would do. Assassinations, infiltrations, the kind of work that governments deny and historians never write about. Ho said nothing. You were active for 10 years. Your unit completed missions that changed the course of wars. You personally have a kill count that would make most veterans sick. And then, suddenly, you disappeared. Your records were sealed. Your identity was erased. And you reappeared here on this station working as a translator. Is there a point to this? Ho asked. Yes, sat back in her chair. I want to know why. Why did you leave? And why did you come here? For a long moment, Ho was silent. He looked down at his hands, the same hands that had done so much harm. Then he spoke. I killed someone I should not have killed. Waited. My unit was given a target, a scientist working for an enemy government. We were told he was developing weapons that could destroy entire planets. We were told he had to be eliminated. Ho's voice was flat and distant. I was the one who pulled the trigger. I was the one who watched him die. And he was innocent, Ho looked up at. His eyes were filled with old pain. He was not developing weapons. He was developing medicine. Medicine that could have saved millions of lives, but someone in our government wanted him dead for political reasons. They used us. They used me. What did you do when you found out? I walked away. I could not do it anymore. I could not be a weapon for people who did not care about the truth. He shook his head. I came here to start over, to be someone different, someone who helped people instead of hurting them. And you have been hiding ever since. Yes. Was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was softer than before. I have commanded many soldiers in my life. I have seen them do terrible things in the name of duty. Most of them felt nothing. They were machines following orders without question. She paused. But you are different. You carry the weight of what you did. You try to be better. That takes a kind of strength that most beings do not have. Ho looked at her with surprise. This was not what he had expected. He had expected anger, suspicion, demands for more information, not understanding. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Because I was wrong about you. Stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars. I thought humans were weak. I thought they were inferior. I treated you badly because I believed those things, but I was wrong. She turned to face him. What you did in that warehouse was not the act of a weak being. It was the act of someone strong. Someone who chooses not to fight, not because they cannot, but because they know the cost. I am not sure I deserve that praise, Ho said. I hurt those badly. I enjoyed it more than I should have. Perhaps, but you also stopped when you could have killed them. You showed restraint when most beings would have shown none. Walked back to her desk and sat down. That is the difference between a monster and a warrior. Monsters kill because they want to. Warriors kill because they have to. And when the killing is done, warriors stop. Ho thought about her words. He had spent so many years hating himself for what he was. He had believed that the violence inside him made him evil, but maybe was right. Maybe the fact that he tried to control it meant something. What happens now? He asked. Now you go back to your life. You translate conversations. You eat meals with your friend. You pretend to be normal, smiled slightly. But if there is ever trouble on this station again, I will know who to call. I am not interested in being a weapon again. I know, and I would not ask you to be. But sometimes having someone like you around can prevent trouble before it starts. Sometimes just knowing that you exist is enough to keep the peace. Ho nodded slowly. I understand. He stood up to leave, but before he reached the door, spoke again. One more thing. He turned. The medic Hana, eyes were sharp. She is important to you. Yes. Then protect her, not because I order you to, but because she deserves it. There are not many good beings in this galaxy. When you find one, you hold on to them. Ho met her gaze. I will. He left the office and walked through the station. The corridors were busy now, filled with beings going about their daily lives. Some of them looked at him, some of them whispered, but Ho did not care anymore. He had spent 3 years trying to be invisible, trying to hide from his past, trying to pretend that he was something he was not. But maybe that was wrong. Maybe the answer was not to hide from who he was. Maybe the answer was to accept it and find a way to use it for good. He found Hana waiting for him outside the communication center. She smiled when she saw him. "How did it go?" she asked. "Better than I expected." What did she want? To understand me. Ho took her hand, and I think she does now, or at least she is trying to. Hana looked at him with curious eyes. "You seem different, lighter." "Maybe I am." He started walking, and she fell into step beside him. "I have been carrying a lot of guilt for a long time. I thought I had to punish myself forever for the things I did. But maybe that is not the answer. Maybe the answer is to accept the past and try to do better in the future." That sounds wise. I am not sure if it is wisdom or just exhaustion. He smiled slightly. But either way, I think I am ready to stop running. They walked together through the station, hand in hand. The artificial lights glowed overhead and the stars shone through the windows. Somewhere in the distance, a ship launched from the docking bay, heading out into the endless darkness of space. Ho did not know what the future would bring. There would be more challenges, more dangers, more moments when he would have to decide who he wanted to be. But he was not afraid anymore. He had found something worth fighting for. He had found someone worth protecting. And as long as he had those things, he could face whatever came next. Hana squeezed his hand. "What are you thinking about?" "The future," he said. "What about it?" "I think it might be okay." He looked at her and smiled. "I think we might be okay." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I think so too." They walked on together, two humans in a galaxy full of wonders and dangers. They were small and fragile compared to the vast forces around them, but they had each other, and sometimes that was enough. The quiet human with the gentle eyes had shown his fury. He had shocked everyone who thought he was harmless. But now, the fury was sleeping again, locked away behind walls of kindness and restraint. It would always be there waiting. But it would only come out when it was truly needed. And that was the secret that Commander finally understood. Humans were not weak because they chose peace. Humans were strong because they could choose war and still walk away from it. They hid their darkness not from weakness, but from mercy. And when they finally let it out, the galaxy trembled. Somewhere in the detention center, lay in his cell, broken and afraid. He would never forget what had happened to him. He would never forget the cold eyes of the human who had destroyed him. And he would never, ever underestimate a human again. The story of Ho spread across the station and beyond. Travelers carried it to other worlds, where it was told in markets and taverns and military academies. The tale of the quiet human who was not what he seemed. It became a legend. And legends have a way of changing how people see the world. From that day forward, the beings of station treated humans differently, not with fear exactly, but with respect, with caution, with the understanding that the small, soft creatures from Earth were capable of things that nobody expected. They had learned the truth that had finally accepted. Humans hide their fury, but when they show it, everyone remembers. Forever.